everybody, it's me, Miss Toth, here again. So we've been talking in reading. One of our strategies that we've been focusing on quite a bit recently has been asking questions. This is another activity that I would like you to try. So, two things. The story that I'm going to read to you today is called What Do You Do with a Tale Like This? It's written by Steve Jenkins and Robin Page. It's a really great story about animals, and I chose it because it helps to kind of spark some of those questions about animals that we always have. Asking questions about animals is, um, I find, very fascinating and very exciting. So I want you to listen to the story. As I read the story, I want you to think about questions you have about the animals that you're listening to. Now, here's a quick review. Before we went on break, we were talking about questioning, and I gave you this paper. I don't know if you remember that. It says questioning words. So the quick questions, the deep thinking. So the quick questions means that's the snorkeling questions, and then the deep thinking questions are the scuba diving questions, and then these are all the questioning words. This is going to be a link on the website, so click on it and you can print this out if you want to, or just pop it up so you can take a look on your computer. Okay, this is the other thing. If you want to do it, you can. If you want to print this one out, you can. If you don't want to print it out, you can just talk about it with your family. There's 3 stages of reading when you're asking questions. Whether or not they're the deep thinking questions or the surface questions, usually we do have questions. So questions that you might have before the reading starts, maybe you'd like to use some of the key question words here to help generate a question or two, or talk about it right now. You can pause me and talk about it with your family. Then I'm going to be reading, and anytime you have a question, you could grab a post-it note and you could plop it down. Maybe like just go bang and plop it down and write it down. You could pause me while I'm reading and stop and write it down. You could turn and talk to your family while I'm reading and just say a question that you have. You don't need to write it down. But if you want to write it down using this, you can. There's a link for this as well. So during reading, if you have questions, write down your questions. Then after reading is when if you have any more questions that were not answered in the story. The book that I'm going to read does not really, it gives you a little bit of information, but sometimes I want to know more. And it might be more about the animal that they're talking about when they've only given me one piece of information. I want to know more. So maybe there's an animal that you're really excited about and you want to have other questions answered. So print this off if you'd like to. Print this off if you'd like to. And now I'm going to start to read the book. Again, pause at any moment if you pause me at any moment when you write down your questions so you don't miss the story. So the story is called What Do You Do with a Tale Like This? Questions? So we know it's a book about animals. Okay, here's the beginning. Animals use their noses, their ears, their tails, eyes, mouths, and feet in very different ways. See if you can guess which animal each part belongs to and how it is used. At the back of the book, you can find out more about these animals. And there looks like our friend, the salmon. Maybe. What do you do with a nose like this? Take a look. Maybe you can recognize some of these animals. Now remember, we're not trying to answer this question. We're trying to ask more questions. Okay? If you're a platypus, you use your nose to dig in the mud. If you're a hyena, you find your next meal with your nose. If you're an elephant, you use your nose to give yourself a bath. If you're a mole, you use your nose to find your way underground. If you're an alligator, you breathe through your nose while hiding in the water. Animals that we see. I'm interested in the mole. I think he looks interesting. What do you do with ears like these? If you're a jackrabbit, you use your ears to keep cool. If you're a bat, you see with your ears. If you're a hippopotamus, you close your ears when you're underwater. If you're a cricket, you hear with ears that are on your knees. If you're a humpback whale, you hear sounds hundreds of miles away. Look at that. There's that cricket with ears on its knees. What do you do with a tail like this? If you're a giraffe, you brush off pesky flies with your tail. If you're a skunk, you lift your tail to warn that a stinky spray is on its way. If you're a lizard, you break off your tail to get away. If you're a scorpion, your tail can give a nasty sting. If you're a monkey, you hang from a tree by your tail. Oh, look at that skunk on his front paws doing a handstand. What do you do with eyes like these? If you're an eagle, you spot tiny animals from high in the air. If you're a chameleon, you look two ways at once. If you're a four-eyed fish, you look above and below the water at the same time. If you're a horned lizard, you squirt blood out of your eyes. If you're a bush baby, you use your large eyes to see clearly at night. What questions do you have on this page? I have a lot of questions for a couple of animals on this page that I didn't know about. What do you do with feet like these? Oh, can you see what animal are these? Oh, sorry, I covered up a foot there. If you're a chimpanzee, you feed yourself with your feet. If you're a blue-footed booby, you do a dance. If you're a water strider, you walk on water. If you're a gecko, you use your sticky feet to walk on the ceiling. If you're a mountain goat, you leap from ledge to ledge. Look at that. Have you seen this insect before? Out in the woods? Take a look, see if you can find them. What do you do with a mouth like this? Look at these interesting mouths. If you're a pelican, you use your mouth as a net to scoop up fish. If you're a mosquito, you use your mouth to suck blood. If you're an egg-eating snake, you use your mouth to swallow eggs larger than your head. If you're an anteater, you capture termites with your long tongue. If you're an archer fish, you catch insects by shooting them down with a stream of water. Wow, look at that. There's that fish. It's kind of like its own personal water gun. And that's the end of that. Now, in this book in particular, there's lots of information about the animals that we've read about. Do you see that? I can't read these to you because it's too small. But you might have questions about some of these animals that you've seen in this book. So what I'm going to ask you to do is talk about any other questions that you have after listening to this book. Thanks for listening, everybody.